Have you ever felt exhausted? Not in your body, but in your soul? Like you're trying so hard to stay afloat that you're quietly drowning. You plan, you push, you persevere. But deep down, nothing moves. Nothing frees you. Alan Watts once said, "When you try to stay on the surface, you sink. But when you try to sink, you float." What if your effort is the very thing pulling you under? What if surrender isn't giving up, but waking up? Stay. This might be the moment everything shifts. You've done everything right. You mapped your life with care, checked the boxes, set the goals, showed up every single day. You told yourself, if I just try harder, I'll finally feel at peace. But here you are, tired. Not the kind of tired sleep can fix. A deep, quiet fatigue that settles in your chest, like something inside you has been holding its breath for years. It's a burnout no one talks about. Not the dramatic collapse, not the obvious breakdown, but the silent erosion of your being. The kind that looks like you've got it all together, but inside you're gasping. You're not lazy. You're not weak. You're just exhausted from holding on too tight. You've been applauded for your persistence. You've been told that hustle is holy, but no one taught you how to rest without guilt, how to let go without fear, how to live without dragging the weight of endless self-improvement behind you like a shadow. We live in a culture that worships effort. We're taught to control every detail, to force outcomes, to chase stability like it's a prize. But no one asks the real question: what happens when effort becomes a form of self-harm? When trying to hold life together becomes the very thing that's tearing you apart? Alan Watts, philosopher, mystic, bridge between East and West, offered a radical answer. Stop trying so hard. Not because life doesn't matter, but because your method is broken. You've been taught to grip the wheel with white knuckles. But what if life isn't something to be driven? What if it's something to be danced with? What's drew from Taoism and Zen? Ancient traditions that didn't preach control, but alignment. They didn't promise perfection, but harmony. They spoke of Wu Wei, the art of non-forcing. Not passivity, not giving up, but moving with life instead of against it. And maybe if you're here now, it's because a part of you already senses this, that you've reached the edge of what effort alone can offer, that what you truly seek, clarity, ease, connection, can't be forced into existence. It has to be allowed, invited, lived. This video isn't just about philosophy. It's about your life. It's about the invisible weight you've been carrying, and the possibility of putting it down, not by walking away from your responsibilities, but by walking back toward yourself. We'll explore why your exhaustion is sacred, not shameful. We'll expose the paradox of effort, the illusion of control, and the cultural myths that have kept you trapped. And we'll show how Alan Watts' teachings offer not just insight, but a doorway back to peace. So take a breath, not the kind you rush through, the kind that finds you. Let it move into the parts of you that have been bracing for too long. Because what you're about to hear might not give you all the answers, but it could help you ask the only question that truly matters. What if life isn't a mountain to be climbed, but a river that's been trying to carry you home all along? You wake up tired, not from lack of sleep, but from the weight of constant becoming. Your to-do list stretches endlessly. Even your rest feels like a task. You perform, at work, in relationships, even in your moments of self-care. You smile when you're breaking. You nod when your heart wants to scream. You show up because you're supposed to, even when there's nothing left to show. This is the quiet burnout, the one no one sees, because you don't collapse. You endure. You carry your exhaustion like a secret. You wear it with grace, but inside you're sinking. Alan Watts spoke of this strange tension, the pressure to be someone, to make something of yourself, to become a product of constant polishing. But who told you that your worth was something you had to earn? From a young age, we're programmed to chase, to pursue an ideal self that never arrives, to improve, upgrade, optimize always. But what if that chase is the source of our suffering? Psychologists call it chronic goal pursuit. Neuroscience shows how our dopamine systems become addicted to anticipation, not fulfillment. So we live in perpetual tension, not because life demands it, but because we don't know how to stop. You've been taught that rest is dangerous, that slowing down is failure, that if you stop even for a moment, everything might fall apart. But Alan Watts challenged this deeply. He called it a cruel delusion, the belief that the harder you fight, the more control you have. But some things in life refuse to be managed. Peace, meaning, presence. They aren't earned by striving. They arrive when you stop pushing them away. Think of water. The more you struggle in it, the more you sink. But when you let go, you float. And this is not just philosophy. There's biology behind it. When the nervous system is trapped in constant fight or flight, your body forgets how to feel safe. You become a soldier in a war that doesn't exist, fighting threats that live only in your mind. Your soul isn't asking for a vacation. It's asking for a release, not from responsibility, but from rigidity, from the mental noise that tells you you're always behind, from the voice that whispers, "You should be doing more. You are not broken. You are overforced." And that difference changes everything. Imagine if the tension in your chest wasn't laziness, but wisdom, a deeper part of you saying, "This way of living is no longer sustainable." Alan Watts didn't offer a step-by-step plan. He offered a mirror, one that shows you not who you should become, but who you are beneath the effort. So maybe it's time to ask, where in your life are you clenching so tightly that nothing can breathe? What might happen if, just for a moment, you loosened your grip? Because sometimes the most courageous thing isn't holding on. It's learning to let life hold you. You were taught that effort equals progress, that the more you push, the clearer things become, that control creates safety and discipline breeds success. But there's a problem. Sometimes the more you try to force clarity, the more confused you feel. The harder you grip the steering wheel of life, the more lost you become. Alan Watts once said, "You cannot grasp water by clenching your fists. The tighter your grip, the more it slips through your fingers." This is the paradox of effort, that your obsession with control might be the very thing blinding you. In psychology, this is called cognitive narrowing. Under stress or high effort, your brain focuses intensely, but only on a narrow slice of reality. You lose perspective. You see only what you're trying to control, and not what's actually unfolding. It's like trying to read a book with a flashlight pressed against the page. You see words, but no meaning, details, but no depth. And in our culture of hustle, we confuse clarity with conquest. We believe that understanding life means conquering it. But what if real clarity arises not from effort, but from openness? Alan Watts believed that true awareness doesn't come from chasing answers. It comes from quieting the chase itself, from letting the mind settle, like muddy water left untouched. When you stop stirring, the water clears on its own. This isn't a rejection of effort. It's a redefinition of intelligent action. In Taoist thought, effort that flows with the natural rhythm of things is not only effective, it's effortless. This is the essence of Wu Wei, action through alignment, not resistance. Modern neuroscience supports this. When the brain enters flow states, periods of deep immersion and ease, it's not under pressure. It's relaxed, curious, present. In that state, insights emerge. Decisions become obvious. Not because you forced them, but because you allowed space for them to appear. But that's hard to accept in a world that rewards pushing, where slowing down feels like falling behind, where let go sounds like give up. Yet there is a difference, and it's profound. Letting go isn't about passivity. It's about receptivity. It's not resignation. It's cooperation with what is already in motion. Think of the surfer. He doesn't create the wave. He studies it, feels it, waits, and then moves with it, not against it. Effort, yes, but guided by flow, not force. So ask yourself honestly, where in your life are you mistaking control for clarity? Where are you trying so hard to see the path that you're blinding yourself to what's already unfolding? Maybe it's time to unclench, not as an act of weakness, but as an invitation to see more clearly. because sometimes the only thing standing between you and peace is the belief that you have to fight for it. You've been told your whole life to be a hero, to conquer, to rise, to dominate. You've seen the movies, read the books. The narrative is always the same. Overcome the odds, win the prize, stand alone at the top. But no one asked, at what cost? From childhood, you were handed a script. It said, work harder, move faster, never stop, be successful, be admired, be in control. But that script forgot one thing, your soul. Alan Watts saw through this illusion, the heroic self, as he called it, the false identity built around struggle, achievement, and ego, the self that must always perform, impress, and prove. He said, the ego is nothing more than a pattern of habits. It's not your essence, it's your costume. And the more tightly you cling to that mask, the more distant you become from your real self. You weren't meant to conquer life, you were meant to feel it. But in the race to become someone, you've become detached from your inner world. You measure your worth by productivity, by how useful, successful, or stable you appear. And every moment of quiet, of uncertainty, feels like failure. This is the lie, that being enough means being impressive, that you need to become more in order to be loved, that softness is weakness, and surrender is defeat. Watts taught the opposite. He believed that power lies not in resistance, but in participation. That to live fully, you must let life touch you, even when it's uncertain, even when it hurts. He asked, what would you do if money were no object? It wasn't a question about careers. It was an invitation to remember who you are without the chains of societal roles. And here's the truth. The heroic self is always exhausted because it's always acting. It's afraid to rest, afraid to stop, because without the performance, who are you? In psychology, this is the false self, a protective persona shaped by fear and expectation. It hides vulnerability, fears judgment, but it also blocks intimacy, authenticity, joy. And yet, there's something even more tragic. The heroic self never gets to feel fully alive because it's always postponing life, waiting until it's good enough, strong enough, worthy enough. But worthiness is not a prize. It's your birthright. Real strength is not in domination. It's in presence. It's in the courage to be seen as you are, not as you should be. It's in the radical act of dropping the armor. So pause. Look at your life. Where are you still trying to be the hero? Where are you forcing a story that no longer feels like your own? Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step out of the spotlight and feel the quiet truth that waits in the shadows. Alan Watts reminds us, you are the universe experiencing itself. You don't have to prove that. You just have to remember it. Why do we rush? Most of the time, it's not because we're late. It's because we're afraid of what we might feel if we stop. The silence, the stillness, the presence of everything we've tried to outrun. We live in motion, not always to move forward, but to avoid ourselves. Alan Watts once asked, what happens when you stop running? And perhaps the more important question is, what has been waiting for you in that pause? There's a subtle addiction in our culture to noise, to stimulation, to constant doing. We scroll, we plan, we overbook, not just to stay productive, but to stay distracted. Because when the world grows quiet, something within begins to speak, and we don't always want to hear it. This fear of stillness is not irrational. It comes from years, sometimes generations, of being told that value lies in movement, that if you're not advancing, you're falling behind, that rest is laziness, that peace is weakness. But what's new, something we've forgotten, that the wind doesn't arrive when you demand it, comes when the space is open, and so do the most meaningful moments in life. You don't force laughter, it arises. You don't schedule awe, it surprises you. You don't manufacture connection, it flows when you're truly present. The same is true for clarity, healing, creativity. They're not products, they're visitors, and they enter only when there is room. The Taoist texts speak of the uncarved block, the idea that emptiness is not absence, but potential, that what is open is not lacking, it's ready. What's embraced this fully. He believed that the habit of rushing through life was a symptom of deep spiritual confusion. We confuse busyness with meaning, and in doing so, we miss everything that matters. When was the last time you truly waited without expectation? When you let something unfold instead of pulling it open? When you trusted the moment instead of managing it? Sounds simple, but it's radical. In a world built for speed, slowing down is rebellion. In a world addicted to answers, sitting with the question is wisdom. In a world obsessed with visibility, choosing stillness is power. And this doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing less with more presence. It means moving from your center, not from panic. You might discover that the thing you were chasing, peace, love, joy, was never far away. It was just drowned out by the noise of your own urgency. So maybe the next time you feel the urge to rush, pause, let the moment breathe. Don't demand the wind. Open the window, and you might find that life has been trying to enter, but the door was always locked from the inside. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine a river, vast, ancient, flowing with quiet power. Now picture yourself not beside it, but inside it. Not floating, not drifting, but resisting, fighting the current, kicking, struggling to move in a direction the water never wanted to take you. This is how most people live, not in flow, but in friction. Alan Watts used this very image to describe human suffering. He said, "To resist change, to try to cling to life, is like holding your breath. If you persist, you kill yourself." It's brutal, and it's true. So the question is simple. Where in your life are you swimming against the river? Maybe it's a relationship you keep trying to control, a version of yourself you're desperately trying to become, a goal you're chasing not because it's right, but because you're afraid to stop. There's always something you grip, something you force, and deep down, you know it's slipping through your hands. But what if that tension, that resistance, is not the obstacle? What if it's the signal? A signal that you're holding something that was never yours to carry, a direction that was never truly yours to begin with, an identity built on expectations that don't fit your shape. The mind resists this truth because it's terrifying. To let go feels like falling. But what reminds us? Letting go is not falling, it's floating. In modern psychology, this is known as radical acceptance. Not resignation, but choosing to face life as it is, not as we wish it to be. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop pretending that forcing things will make them work. The paradox? When you stop trying to make life obey your plan, you start noticing it already had a rhythm, a flow, a current that, if you trust it, carries you exactly where you need to go. And the fear you feel, that letting go means losing control, is based on a misunderstanding. You never had control, only the illusion of it. The river isn't against you. It's not punishing you. It's trying to carry you home. But it can't if you insist on swimming upstream. So ask yourself now, what are you holding on to that's holding you back? What are you forcing, shaping, dragging, that, if released, might free not just your time, but your soul? Because surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means showing up differently. It means trading control for coherence, trading fear for alignment. Alan Watts wasn't asking us to abandon our lives. He was asking us to live them fully, without the performance, without the resistance, just here, now. What if that's enough? What if the answer isn't ahead of you, but behind the tension you're holding in your chest right now? Let it go. Let the current take you. You might find that home was never a place. It was a way of being one breath, one release, one surrender away. Letting go isn't giving up. It's giving space. Space for life to move again, for breath to return, for you to stop bracing and start feeling. Maybe you've spent years gripping the world with all your strength, trying to fix, force, and figure it all out. And maybe now, for the first time, you see how tired you are, how sacred that exhaustion is, not because it's a flaw, but because it's a signal, a whisper from your deepest self that says, "This isn't the way anymore." Alan Watts once said, Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. And maybe your soul, like that water, doesn't need more effort. It needs stillness. It needs trust. It needs the courage to stop swimming upstream and float. You've walked through the quiet burnout. You've felt the paradox of effort. You've seen the illusion of the heroic self. And maybe, just maybe, you've opened the window for the wind to come in. What if this isn't the end of the journey? What if it's the beginning of a different kind of living? One where you no longer measure your worth by how much you can endure, but by how deeply you can feel. There's a different kind of power waiting in the stillness. The kind that doesn't scream. The kind that doesn't demand. The kind that simply is. You don't have to force joy. You don't have to chase peace. You don't have to earn rest. You are already allowed. This is the art of drifting back to yourself. A gentle return. A quiet unfolding. A slow remembering of who you were before you thought you had to prove anything. So before this video ends, take one moment, just one. Close your eyes. Let your shoulders drop. Breathe in, not to change anything, but to notice what's already here. What are you forcing in your life right now? What would it feel like to finally let it breathe? The river isn't something outside of you. It is you. And when you stop fighting it, you remember the rhythm. You remember that life was never meant to be wrestled into submission. It was meant to be moved with, like music, like waves, like wind. And maybe the real you was never lost, only silenced, buried beneath too much effort, too much expectation, too much noise. But not anymore, because if you're still here, then something in you is ready to live differently, not harder, not faster, just truer. What we explored today is just a fragment, a single thread in the vast tapestry of who we are. But if it made you pause, even for a second, then that silence was worth more than 1,000 scrolls. If you're still here, I see you, and I thank you. You're invited to continue, with a comment, a click, or even just a thought you carry into your evening. There are more videos waiting, deeper questions, harder truths. I'll be there. Like and subscribe only if it feels honest. This isn't about numbers, it's about conversations that matter. Until next time, stop resisting, start listening. The river already knows the way.